We've had a lot of guests on the Riderflex podcast. Over 300 people now have come on the show and shared their story. Entrepreneurs, business owners, executives. They're talking about startup, raising cash, exits, mergers, advice on how to make it to the C-level, career advice, all kinds of stuff. Some really inspirational stories. Truly, people that inspire me, that have struck an emotional chord in me so many times. We've had several recently that really just touched me, and that's why I wanted to put out this message, share a couple of examples with you, and there's lots of examples. In fact, most entrepreneurs and most people that make it to the executive level have gone through a lot of adversity, many hurdles, personal and professional. You watch TV or you see the news and you see somebody that started a business and had an exit or whatever, and you think, oh, life's so easy and great. And it never is. It's never a straight line. And there's just always bad things that happen and challenges that they're faced with, and they share a lot of those on the podcast. But recently had a few people on that were super emotional for me. One guest, for example, had a good career, came from a decent family, educated, college degree, was moving up in his career, making decent money, married, kid. Everything's moving along fine, right? Life's just moving along. I think he was in his maybe mid-30s or something. I can't remember. Was in a bad automobile accident. Was hurt pretty bad. In fact, almost died. Anyway, guess what happens? In recovery, gets hooked on painkillers, right? Becomes an addict. And the opioids basically destroyed his life, is the short version. Lost his job, lost his money, lost his wife, lost everything. Became homeless, pretty much. Family, had borrowed and stole money from his family, so they disowned him. Super sad, right? Because the guy was kind of on the right path, and just everything got turned upside down. Was close to suicide many times. Didn't think he could turn it around, and but finally did. Got some help. Somebody finally helped him, got him into a rehab, and over a period of a few years, finally kicked the drugs. Ended up reconciling with his wife and child, believe it or not, which took a long time, and lots of scars in there, lots of heartache, but finally reconciled. Went back to school, got his master's, got back into the workforce. Always had an entrepreneurial bug from a young age. Ended up starting his own company. Got that company into a multi-million-dollar revenue company. Raised several $1 million to get it even further. Company exploded. Grew the company. Sold the company for millions of dollars. Exited, and has a great life now. But when you hear him tell the story, like, you would just never know, right? If you saw him on the cover of Newsweek or whatever, you would just think, oh, silver spoon guy, came from a rich family, daddy probably gave him money, started a company, sold it, made millions. It's like, no, that's not even close. Not even close to the real story. And it's just a great example of how so many of these entrepreneurs and business owners and executives really go through lots of trials and tribulations and hurdles, and they're faced with lots of things, just like the rest of us, right? They're all human. Like, they all have families, they all have issues, they all have vices, addictions, whatever. And they make mistakes, they take the wrong turn, they go left when they should have went right, whatever, they go through the wrong door. So they're just like the rest of us. And so when you see that they've made it, don't assume it was an easy path all the way. Here's another example. Somebody was just on the podcast. I shared this story. This time it wasn't drugs. They went to prison, made one mistake. Now, this is not a lifelong criminal. In fact, never had been arrested, never had been in trouble besides a speeding ticket, right? Same thing, married, couple of kids, educated, had already made it to the C level, had already been an entrepreneur and a co-founder in a couple of businesses. Wasn't rich by any means, but was already, quote, successful in their life. And did something he shouldn't have done and went to prison for it. 6 years. 6 years in prison with hardcore people. Okay, bad guys. Lost his family, estranged from his children, lost his job, obviously, lost his money. His family disowned him, mom, dad, siblings, etc. I mean, just all of it, right? Sitting in prison. And as he tells me the story, it's so evident that everything from that point could have went further south, could have become bitter, angry, could have became a lifelong criminal, gotten the wrong crowd in prison, and just continued to do bad things. Like, it all could have continued to go south for him. But he studied, read in prison, and learned everything he could, continued his education, gets out of prison, goes back to school, gets his MBA, ends up meeting a new lady, gets married to a new wonderful wife, has slowly started to repair his relationship with his children, which still is not over, still a work in progress. Calls an old friend who gives him a chance, and that old friend puts him into a job. He moves his way up, and he's back at the C level, making good money, and just bought a new house with his new wife. And check this out. He's in a good mood. Like, he's super happy. You meet him on the street. He's talks about how blessed he is and how wonderful life is. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, man, most people that have been through what you've gone through would just be bitter and angry and pissed off, And he's not like that at all. He just counts his blessings and is happy to be alive. And, So what's my point? What's my point of this episode? My point is, when you are listening to stories about entrepreneurs or business owners or C-level executives, they're all human, man. They all make mistakes. They all have family issues, health issues. They go through major hurdles. Like, it is not easy just to make it to the C-level or be an executive for a long time or start a business or run a business. All those things are hard to do, but when you tie in car wrecks and bankruptcies and jail and all kinds of other, divorces, when you tie in all the personal stuff with the fact that being an executive for a business is hard anyway, it's challenging. And most people are going through it. So when you, the listener, when you're going through tough times, when you're having a rough day, and you think you're the only one that's got some adversity, it's not true. Every bad shit happens to everybody. So keep pushing forward. Just keep pushing forward and stay as positive as you can. My own self, and I'll finish this off by telling you about a personal story about myself. So you look at my LinkedIn profile, right? And you think, oh, he was a CEO and a president and a COO, was an executive, moved his way up in retail, started Riderflex. Oh, now he's a business owner. And it looks like a wonderful life. It looks like you look at my profile on LinkedIn, you're like, wow, look at that. That looks great. Everything just went perfect. No, it didn't. It didn't. At one point in my career, when my first wife left me, I was sleeping in a little trailer house with a mattress on the floor, and that's all I owned. Because I had lost everything due to some work stuff and my wife leaving me. And same thing, man. I could have continued down the wrong path right there, but I didn't. I got myself up, brushed myself off, kept pushing forward. I encourage you to do the same thing. By the way, check out the Riderflex podcast. Lots of inspirational stories there, Spotify, YouTube, and just about anywhere else you listen. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.